4 days ago, my life turned upside down during my Tuesday afternoon shift at the grocery store. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating in my pocket. 3 missed calls from my mom in just a few minutes. When I got a moment to call her back, her voice was off, not tearful but sharp, almost furious. She told me there was an urgent family meeting and I had to get home immediately. When I pressed for details, she snapped, saying if I wasn't there in half an hour, they'd cut me off for good. My boss let me leave early since it was a family emergency. The whole drive home, I braced myself for the worst. Maybe someone had passed away or the house had caught fire. Nothing could have prepared me for what I walked into. I pulled into the driveway and saw cars lined up everywhere. My sister's sleek sedan, my brother's pickup, my uncle's SUV, cousins' vehicles, even ones I barely recognized. I counted 11 cars before stepping inside. The living room was packed with 23 relatives, a number I confirmed later while trying to wrap my head around the chaos. Parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandmother, who needs a walker to move, were all there. They'd arranged themselves in a semicircle like I was about to face a jury. The room went silent as I entered. My dad stood up, clutching a folder, and pointed to a single chair positioned in front of everyone, telling me to sit. I stayed standing and demanded to know what was happening. That's when the onslaught began. Dad launched into a speech about how I'm 26, still living in their house, eating their food with no partner, no kids, and no real career. Just a dead-end job at the grocery store. He called me a failure right to my face in front of the entire family, labeling me a disappointment. Before I could respond, my sister piled on, saying how humiliating it was when her friends spotted me working at the store. She said they mocked her, texting about her pathetic brother still wearing outdated clothes and living at home. Her voice dripped with disdain. Then my brother, who's never been kind, stood up and said his 8-year-old son asked why Uncle Daniel sleeps so late and reeks of defeat. He said he struggled to explain to his kid why his uncle was a grown man who couldn't get his life together. My mom was sobbing, but it was an angry kind of crying. She said they'd given me everything and I'd squandered it. Then she dropped the ultimatum. I had 30 days to land a job paying at least $50,000 a year, or I'd be cut off. No holiday invites, no birthday calls, erased from their will. She called me a leech in front of everyone. My aunt stood up next, announcing that they'd held a vote before I arrived. It was unanimous. They all agreed I was a stain on the family's reputation, dragging them down. Then my dad pulled out a laptop and revealed a presentation titled Daniel's Shortcomings, a detailed breakdown. I'm not exaggerating. He clicked through slides cataloging everything they considered my failures, charts comparing my earnings to my siblings, a timeline of my flops dating back to high school, even a pie chart showing how much of their groceries I allegedly consumed versus my contributions. They'd been planning this for months. One by one, relatives I rarely saw took turns expressing their disappointment. My grandmother said she was ashamed of the man I'd become. Another aunt suggested I might have undiagnosed issues making me lazy. What they conveniently left out was that I dropped out of college because my dad lost his job during my sophomore year, and I couldn't afford tuition without taking on crushing debt. I've been at the grocery store for 3 years because its flexible hours let me care for my mom after her surgery 2 years ago. The same mom now calling me a leech. I've saved nearly every penny to return to school someday. When they finally finished, they stared at me, expecting me to crumble or plead for forgiveness. Instead, I smiled, a real smile that seemed to unnerve them more than if I'd shouted. I said, "All right, but you're all going to regret this soon." Then I walked out, no dramatics, no door slamming, just left. I drove to my friend Ethan's place. He's known my family forever and was furious when I told him what happened. "That's some cult-level nonsense," he said. "A presentation about why you're a failure? Who does that?" He let me crash on his couch that night. My phone kept buzzing with texts, not apologies but more jabs. My sister sent job listings. My brother sent a listing for an apartment I couldn't afford, captioned, "Time to grow up." The next morning, I went back to my parents' house when everyone was out to grab my things, clothes, laptop, important papers, and a few personal items. I left a note on my bed, "30 days starts now." As I was packing my car, our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who's lived next door my whole life, came over. She'd overheard parts of the meeting through open windows. My family's not exactly quiet. She asked if I was okay and said she'd watched me grow up and knew I was a good person. She mentioned how I'd always helped with her groceries and fixed her computer. "Don't listen to them," she said. Sometimes families can't see what's right in front of them. I nearly broke down right there in the driveway. This near stranger showed more kindness in a minute than my family had in years. I spent the next few days at Ethan's, figuring out my next steps. I had about $4,500 saved from my dead-end job, originally for community college. On day 3, the shock faded, replaced by a cold determination. They wanted to shame me, give me ultimatums, make presentations about my failures. Fine. But they were about to learn you don't back someone into a corner unless you're ready for them to fight back. I called my friend Lucas, who works in IT. Over drinks, I spilled everything. He mentioned his company had an opening in their support department, entry-level, but paying $42,000. Not the $50,000 my family demanded, but a start. They never noticed I'm actually great with computers, a skill I've honed since I was 14. My dad always dismissed it as tinkering rather than a real talent. I interviewed at Luca's company the next day, wearing Ethan's ill-fitting suit. I aced the technical test and got the job on the spot. That night, I found a small studio apartment in a rough neighborhood, barely affordable on my new salary. I used most of my savings for the deposit and first month's rent. While setting up my bare-bones place, a mattress on the floor, clothes in stacks, laptop on a cardboard box, I kept thinking about their presentation. Then it hit me. What if I made my own? Not about my failures, but theirs. What if I spent the next several months digging up every secret they're hiding? My sister's perfect marriage, which I know isn't perfect from overhearing her cry about her husband's issues. My brother's job, where he's been disciplined for fudging numbers. My dad's struggling business he keeps from everyone. I opened my laptop and started a new file. The family's undoing, a study in hypocrisy. My 30-day clock to meet their demands was ticking, but I gave myself 7 months to expose their lies. About a week after moving out, I realized I'd left some important items at my parents' house. My birth certificate, old hard drives with photos, and a box of collectibles worth decent money. I checked their shared online calendar. They hadn't removed my access and picked a day when everyone was out. Mom at her book club, dad golfing, sister at her kids' sports practice, brother on a business trip, aka gambling. I let myself in with my key. The house was eerily quiet. I noticed they'd already turned my room into a gym, my bed gone, replaced by dad's old treadmill and weights. My posters were down, my closet nearly empty. They were eager to erase me. I grabbed my birth certificate from dad's office and the collectibles from the attic. There I spotted an open box labeled Tax Records 2018 to 2023. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found letters from the bank stamped with final notice and foreclosure warning. My dad's business was crumbling. They'd remortgaged the house twice and were 3 months behind on payments. The latest letter was dated just 2 weeks before their intervention, when they called me a financial burden while hiding their own looming eviction. Then, in the basement, I found my hard drives but heard a dripping noise from the laundry room. A massive water stain spread across the ceiling, classic dad ignoring repairs while preaching responsibility. I noticed my sister's purse on the dryer forgotten. I'm not proud of it, but I looked inside and found her checkbook. She'd written checks to herself from my parents' account, with memos like home repair loan or emergency funds, in her own handwriting, obviously forged. At least $15,000 over a few months. My perfect sister, who mocked me as a failure, was stealing from our struggling parents. In Dad's office, searching for my backup drive, I found a stack of betting receipts. My brother's sales trips were weekly gambling sprees burning through thousands. While grabbing my old laptop from the guest room closet, I checked our family's shared cloud storage and found a folder labeled Daniel Intervention. It contained their presentation, planning emails from months back, a script for each person's speech, and a document titled Financial Outlook Without Daniel's Costs. The intervention wasn't about my growth, it was about their desperation. They planned to rent out my room on a short-term rental platform for income, using my failure as a moral excuse to kick me out without admitting their financial ruin. I copied everything to my cloud storage, took photos of the foreclosure notices, my sister's checkbook, and my brother's betting receipts, and left. On my way out, I ran into Uncle Mike, Dad's brother, who wasn't at the intervention. He was shocked when I told him what happened. Apparently, he'd been excluded because he and Dad fell out over a $50,000 loan Dad never repaid. Over coffee, Mike revealed Dad's business has been failing for 5 years. My parents remortgaged the house to fund my sister's lavish wedding and my brother's failed startup. and they've borrowed from nearly every relative with empty promises of repayment. The intervention was a setup. Everyone there wanted their money back, and I was the scapegoat. Mike also shared a game changer. The family vacation cabin my parents claim to own is actually in a trust, with Mike as a co-beneficiary. He's willing to help me leverage that. I've been at my new job for a few weeks, and my boss says I'm exceeding expectations. There's a senior role opening soon that pays exactly $50,000, their ultimatum amount. Mom texted me, asking if I'd found a real job, yet reminding me my 30 days were running out. I didn't reply. They don't know I know about the foreclosure, my sister's theft, my brother's gambling, or that I'm working with Uncle Mike. They think they hold all the power, but I'm building a stronger hand. 4 months later, things have gone from bad to catastrophic for my family. At work, I got promoted after my 90-day review. My boss praised my quick learning and offered me a Tier 2 support role at $52,500. I sent Mom a screenshot of the offer letter with goal met, $52.5K. She didn't reply for 3 days, then texted, "That's great, are you coming to family dinner?" No apology, no mention of their ultimatum, just pretending nothing happened. I didn't respond. My apartment's coming together, a proper bed, a cheap couch, a real desk. It's small but mine. Meanwhile, Uncle Mike told me my parents have been begging relatives for loans, despite claiming I was their financial burden. Most relatives refused, burned by Dad's unpaid debts. Then my sister, Sarah, got exposed. At a family dinner, Mom found bank statements with unfamiliar withdrawals and thought Dad was hiding money. After a heated argument, they realized Sarah had forged checks. Per Uncle Mike, Sarah admitted she needed the money because her husband, Tom, lost his job months ago, and they've been faking their perfect life with stolen funds and credit card debt. Mom defended Sarah, saying they'd handle it as a family, but Dad exploded about betrayal. My brother, Matt, accused Dad of favoritism, and the dinner turned into chaos. Plates thrown, Grandma in tears. Then Matt's wife, Emily, called me desperate. Their son found betting receipts in Matt's car, leading Emily to uncover Matt's gambling addiction. Wiped out savings, maxed out cards, shady loans, and possibly embezzling from his job. She asked me for a loan, saying, "Family helps family." I reminded her of Matt's role in the intervention, calling me a loser. She claimed he was just trying to motivate me and didn't expect my parents to go so far. I said I couldn't help, but suggested she see a lawyer to protect herself from Matt's debts. She hung up. The foreclosure on my parents' house is now critical. Uncle Mike's banker friend says they're in the final stages before legal action. Dad's business is dead. His last employees quit over unpaid wages. On the cabin, Uncle Mike's refusing to sign off on my parents' attempt to borrow against it unless Dad repays the $50,000 he owes. Mike and I consulted an attorney and learned he can assign his trust interest to me. Now I'm a legal co-owner of the cabin, and my parents don't know. They think they're just dealing with Mike. Their short-term rental plan for my room flopped. Guests left bad reviews due to the house's disrepair, like that water leak and Dad's arguments over parking. Matt's trying to move his family into my parents' house because they can't afford their mortgage. Sarah and Tom are separated, and she's also considering moving back with her kids. The house they kicked me out of is now a chaotic shelter for their successful kids. I've documented everything, texts, emails, Uncle Mike's updates. My family's undoing presentation is growing. Last night, Dad left a voicemail sounding broken, not arrogant. He wanted to discuss a family financial issue and valued my input now that I'm doing well. Translation. They're desperate and want my money. I'm meeting him tomorrow at a coffee shop, and I've got my own presentation ready. Yesterday, I met Dad at a coffee shop, arriving early to pick a corner table, private but visible. I was nervous but confident, a different person from 7 months ago, new job, new place, new look. Dad looked terrible, unshaven, tired, in a stained sweatshirt. He didn't recognize me at first, his face cycling through confusion, surprise, and forced warmth. He started with small talk, how's work, nice weather, acting like we'd had a minor spat, not a family-wide attack. After a bit, I asked about the financial matter. He admitted the house was in foreclosure, his business was gone, Sarah was separating, and Matt was struggling. He used phrases like "we're a family" and "temporary hurdles," never mentioning the intervention. Finally, he said they needed $60,000 by month's end to save the house, and Mom was too proud to ask me directly. I sipped my coffee, then showed him my phone. "I've gotten 84 messages from family in 3 days," I said, reading some aloud, Mom begging to talk, Sarah asking for help, Matt needing money, aunts and uncles who insulted me now praising my success. Dad's face flushed with embarrassment. Then I opened my laptop and showed him their presentation, Daniel's shortcomings. His face paled as I clicked through my evidence. Sarah's forged checks, Matt's betting receipts, the foreclosure notices, the cabin trust documents with my name. He mumbled that the presentation was to motivate me. I laid out my terms. No $60,000 loan or gift. Instead, I'd use my $25,000 savings to form an LLC with Uncle Mike, buying their mortgage at a discount. They'd pay us, not the bank, at a lower rate but with strict terms. Sarah would sign a repayment agreement for her theft. Matt would get gambling treatment, and every intervention attendee would record a video apologizing for their words. Dad argued that family doesn't need contracts, calling my terms cold. I laughed. Was it warm to ambush me with a presentation, to vote me out? He had no response. I gave him until tomorrow to decide, or they'd lose the house. As I left, he grabbed my arm, pleading, "You can't do this, we're your family." I looked him in the eye. "You were my family, then you called me a stain, now I'm your lender." I walked out feeling unstoppable. My phone exploded. Mom saying I was breaking her heart, Sarah begging and accusing, Matt threatening then pleading, even my nephew asking me to his birthday. At midnight, Dad emailed. "We agree." The next day, we met at the lawyer's office, me, Uncle Mike, my parents, Sarah, Matt. They looked defeated. I felt alive. They signed the LLC and mortgage papers. Mom sobbed, Dad looked broken, Sarah avoided my gaze, Matt fidgeted. I handed them scripts for their apology videos, not for public use but for me. I also gave them my presentation, The Family's Undoing, detailing their lies with charts and evidence. Over the next week, the videos arrived, angry, tearful, or robotic, but they all complied. My favorite was Aunt Karen's, who'd called me a stain, admitting she was jealous because her son, my cousin, was 34, jobless, and living in her basement. Last night, I held a virtual meeting with all 23 attendees. I played their apology montage, then my slideshow. My promotion, savings, lease, LLC, mortgage papers, their presentation beside mine. They sat in stunned silence.